What's up, everyone? Welcome to the first solo episode of the year 2024. You did it. Pat yourself on the back. You are alive. You made it to this year. You made it to this point in time. And I'm happy you're here. And I'm thankful for your support. So thanks for clicking the link and listening to this episode. So what's this episode going to be about? This episode is going to be about the year 2024. Shocker. I'm going to talk about goal setting. I've already lost everyone. I say goal setting and everyone clicked off. That does sound corny and that does sound like not a fun time, but I'm going to try to make it a fun time. So how about we quit wasting time? Let's just jump into this solo episode. I don't want to waste anyone's time. Just a friendly reminder that I have merch for sale. You can buy this coffee mug. There's hats on there. There's shirts on there. Go check it out. Okay, let's get into the meat of what this episode is really about. And it's really about New Year's resolutions, which sounds incredibly boring. But what I wanted to do was to share some of my favorite quotes with you. And hopefully these quotes will get the wheels turning in your mind and your goals will just boom, pop into your head, or at least you'll feel like you're more hyper-focused on them. And these can apply to anyone. So that's the beauty of this. So the first quote is, nothing changes if nothing changes. And my favorite podcaster, Theo Vaughn, he says that. I don't think he came up with the quote, but it's something that he really puts out there. And what that means is, it's kind of like that Albert Einstein quote where it's like the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. That's the same thing as nothing changes if nothing changes. So if you're discontent with your life, but you're doing the same thing every day, day in and day out, nothing's going to change because nothing changed. You have to make changes for things to change. So let's say your goal is to get in shape. If you don't go to the gym, if you don't start eating cleaner, monitoring your calories in, calories out, nothing's going to change. Nothing changes if nothing changes. If you want to spend your money more wisely and save more money and budget, pay off debt, whatever it may be with financials, if you're living and spending the same way, you're gonna experience that same pattern that you're in right now. So if you're not happy about where you are and how you're operating, you got to change. It's just the way it is. The same stuff is going to produce the same stuff. The same mentality, the same approaches creates the same life. So if you feel like your years are blurring together and there's not much difference between each year and you don't feel like you're getting much personal growth, maybe you need to change it up. Maybe this is the time. Nothing changes if nothing changes. All right, and the second quote I want to bring up, and this one is going to be great for anyone who's set out on to do like a specific project. And the quote is, the magic you are looking for is in the work you are avoiding. The magic you are looking for is in the work you are avoiding. And the beauty of this quote and why I brought it up is basically what I'm saying is like, we all kind of know what we want to do. There's a project you've been wanting to start. Let's say you wanted to build a tree house. You have a kid and you want to build a tree house for your kid in the backyard and you've just been putting it off. The magic, the magical family moments that you'd experience building the tree house, seeing your kid in the tree house is only going to happen if you build the tree house. The magic that I want people to receive from my podcast only happens if I make the podcast. So whatever it is that you want to do, you just got to do the work and then the magic will happen. It's very simple. And sometimes simple makes sense because sometimes we overcomplicate things. You want to be a podcaster? Podcast. And then the magic will happen from you creating your podcast. What it is a lot of people get lost and stuck in the planning phase of things. They'll say, all right, I want to do this. I want to get in shape. I want to save more money. I want to start a podcast. I want to write a book. And then they get in the planning phase. And then they stay in the planning phase. because it's nice, it's safe and warm and comfortable in the planning phase, because you're not being vulnerable. You're not putting yourself out there, because once you start trying and once you start doing what you're setting your mind and heart out on, now you're setting yourself for vulnerability. When I put myself up on the internet talking to this camera, I'm putting myself out there. I'm being vulnerable. People probably make fun of me. Some people like it. Some people don't like it. It is what it is. I got to be okay with putting myself out there to experience the magic of helping people who actually enjoy this podcast. So, get out of the planning phase and do the thing you want to do. Again, nothing changes if nothing changes. So take that leap, and who knows what will happen once you actually start. That's the magic of it. That feeling, that great feeling you feel when you press upload on a post that you worked hard on. When you submit that paper to be peer reviewed or whatever it is that you're doing. The feeling, the pride you get, when you do something you're proud of. The only way to get that feeling is to do something you're proud of. And usually that is going to require you to get out of your comfort zone. It's going to require you to take a leap of faith, be vulnerable, and put yourself out there. And guess what? The magic will happen once you do that. All right, moving on to the next quote. And that quote is, growth will also feel like loss. You're probably like, what does that mean, Lance? How does growth feel like loss? If you're living for others, are you really growing? Or if you are growing, you're growing like sideways, or you're growing downwards, but are you truly growing upwards in the way that you want to? Like for example, growth, my personal growth. I moved from North Carolina to New York to pursue my career, video editing, and to not have to drive. So I moved for public transportation, the subway system. I'm also a video editor, lots of work here. And I wanted to change the scenery. I moved with not that much money in my savings account, a lot of debt, and a few connections. And I moved and I left my familiar environment with family and friends, and I moved somewhere brand new, complete culture shock, change of scenery. I went from Raleigh, North Carolina, which is a smaller city, to the biggest city and busiest city in America, where 8 million people live. So I jumped right in, left my comfortable position. I had a great job in Raleigh. I left my family. I left my friends. And I even left a relationship to move up here. So that wasn't easy, but I grew. I moved here. I got better job opportunities, more exciting job opportunities. I met my wife here. I left the country for the first time. I've tried all sorts of new foods. I've gone to so many live events. I've gone to operas, comedy shows, concerts, Broadway shows. I started this podcast. I'm making the most money I've ever made in my life. And I'm doing it in a place that a lot of people told me I couldn't be able to do it. Oh, you're going to move to New York City and you're going to be broke because it's so expensive. You're going to be destitute. In fact, the opposite happened. I moved to New York and my life got better. I made more money and got rid of all my debt because I believed in myself and I knew what I needed to do. I knew what was best for me. Fuck all that noise that people want to whisper into your ear to try to make you doubt yourself. You know deep down what you need to do. And the reason why I'm bringing up this quote is growth will feel like loss is there's probably people in my family who probably expect me to be the same person I was when I moved. Lance, in their mind, I'm still the Lance I was before I moved to New York. To a degree, I am. To a degree, I am the same Lance. But I'm very different. I've grown a lot. I've experienced a lot of growth, But in the same way, I do feel like a little detached from who I was before. There's certain old friends from high school or whoever it is, they probably still think of me the same way as I was, even though I've grown. So in a way, growth feels like loss because sometimes you change so much that you don't even remember your old self. Even if it's a good change. Sometimes it's bad change. I'm talking about good change. I'm talking about growth here. Sometimes you will expand and grow to where your old self isn't even familiar to you anymore. And that's kind of sad in a way. It feels like loss because it's not like I didn't like the version of myself I was before I moved to New York. I just like the version of myself now way more. So I'm still friends with old Lance. I'm still friends with the old version of myself. But sometimes it's sad. Sometimes I feel like when I try to connect with the old version of myself, I don't relate to him anymore. I look back and I'm like, oh, that version of me thought this, and now I disagree with that completely. But growth will feel like loss sometimes because you'll feel disconnected from who you were before. And people around you will expect you to be the person you are today or you were when you were friends with them. You don't want to stay stagnant. You don't want to be put in a box, So sometimes when you grow, you'll lose people along the way. You'll outgrow certain people. You will literally outgrow some of your friends, and that's okay. You got to give yourself the space to outgrow them. It's like the goldfish, whatever bowl the goldfish is in is how big it will be. Same goes for people. Whatever box you want to put yourself in is how you will be constrained. If you're in a fish tank with a goldfish, 2 goldfish in a tank, one of them gets put in a bigger one and they grow bigger, they might miss their buddy in the old fish tank, but they're happy they got more space and they're growing bigger, and it just keeps going on and on. And, if that other goldfish wants to grow with that goldfish, then they can grow together. There's no need to shrink yourself just so you can fit in and blend in with people who aren't growing like you are. Don't put a glass ceiling on yourself. Don't put yourself in a box. Expand. And the sad thing is, and why I say growth will feel like loss, is that sometimes you will expand and you will leave people behind. You will lose certain things of your old life. Certain aspects of your old life will disappear because you are growing. And it's growing pains. It's growing pains. And you just got to know what's true to you and do it. If you're overweight and you have overweight friends and you want to get in shape, they don't want you to get in shape. They may say they want you to get in shape, but they're going to try to keep you in the same place they are because that will make them feel better about themselves. If you're a drug user and you want to get clean, your drug addict friend is not going to want you to get clean because then who's he going to do drugs with? So sometimes you got to expand and let people down and not really care about what people think, because sometimes even the people who you love and are closest to you, they may not want you to grow. They want to keep you where you are because that's going to make them feel better about themselves. But if you have a friend who gets in shape, gets shredded and has an 8-pack, while you want to get in shape, but you don't take the effort to do it, and you see your friend get an 8-pack, you may be a little jealous. You may be a hater. You may become a hater. You may be like, you may come up with some excuses. Well, I could probably get in shape if I had blah, blah, blah. No, the difference is you just didn't want it as much. And that person getting in shape is proof that you could get in shape. And you don't like having proof, because when you have proof against that you could do something, when you have proof that you can do something, all it is proof that you didn't do it, which makes you feel like shit. When you are growing and you're doing well and people see it, this is what being a hater is. This is what haters are. Again, they want you to do well, but not better than them. So they'll see you getting in shape, and it will remind them of who they could have been. They could have been that same person with a 6-pack. Instead, they're not, because your success is a visible proof to them of who they could have been if they actually went for it. Don't get tied into that either. So that's just another little side note I wanted to add into that message. But that leads me to the last quote that I want to share in this episode to kind of help you think about your new year. And again, these quotes I'm sharing are to help you think about your life and what goals you actually want to set. Again, I don't want to tell you what goals to set. I want to tell you how to think about what goals you want to set. And this last quote is the serenity prayer that's used a lot in Alcoholics Anonymous meetings or AA meetings. And it's the serenity prayer. And the quote is, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And again, it's God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, have the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Some things are out of your control is what that means. And there's some things that are within your control. And happiness and being a pessimist or an optimist kind of is in that gray area of knowing the difference, the wisdom to know the difference. And the reason why I wanted to end on this quote, because I think it's just such a powerful quote, because life is unpredictable. Life is fucked up. Life is hard. As much as you want to plan your goals out, as much as you want to have everything laid out neatly, in 2024, I'm going to do this, this, and this, and I'm going to do that, that, and that, and then that will lead to this, this, and this. And I'm not saying you shouldn't do that. You should have goals. But guess what? Life doesn't give a fuck about your goals. Excuse my language. But life doesn't. A lot of people set goals out and are dedicated to them, and then something abrupt will change it just like that. And that's how life operates. No one's safe. No one is safe from life. And I'm not trying to sound scary or doom and gloom, but again, it's just the reality. No one's safe. You could get cancer. You could get in a car accident. You could choke on your food. You could trip and fall down the stairs. I could keep going on, but you get the point. For example, let me go into this quote, and decipher it for you. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. Let's talk about that in the form of retinitis pigmentosa. I cannot change that I have RP. I cannot change that. And feeling bad for myself and trying to be like, man, I can't believe I have this. I'm going to be in denial about it. How does that help me? How does that help me? It doesn't help me. So I need to have this, the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. As shitty as some things are, you still have to accept them. You lose a loved one, it's shitty, but you have to accept they're gone. You have a incurable disease, it's shitty, but guess what? You still have the incurable disease. Those are things that are out of your control. A lot of things are out of your control. Your marriage fails, you get a divorce. Some of that was in your control, but guess what? You're only one person. You can't control the other person. Some things are out of your control. You can only do what you know you need to do. And outside of that, a lot of shit's out of your control. You can't control other people and how they think and feel and react. You can only control your own actions. And there's certain things that, you just got to accept. And I think that's the first part of that quote, the serenity to accept the things you can't change. That can also go into your past. Let's say you have, for example, they use this quote in AA, because, people dealing with addiction, they feel grief about their past and the person they were and the things they did. And, it's honestly like a forgiveness type of thing too. You can't change the past. That's another thing you can't change. So forgive yourself. Accept that was the past, right? Accept that was the reality of the past. And accept that there's nothing you can do about the past. The past is the past. That age-old quote. It is. The past is the past. What good does it do to dwell on it? Obviously, it's good to reflect and grow and learn what not to do. But if you're living in guilt mode forever, that's not going to be productive and healthy for you. And then the next part of this quote is the courage to change the things you can change. From, on that addictive part, since I'm talking about how this is used in AA, you can change the things you want to change. So let's say you had a drinking problem. You can change your drinking problem. You can change your habits. You can change your behavior. You can change those things. You can't change the fact that you have RP, but you can accept that you have RP, and you can change how you think about yourself with how in your RP. You can learn to use a cane. You can learn to use assistive tech. You can network with others. You can step outside your comfort zone and begin to accept your RP through actions, the things that you can actually change. You can get into shape. You can get your finances in better place. None of those things have anything to do with your RP. Those are behaviors. Those are things you can change. Just because there's one part of your life that you're really disappointed with doesn't mean that it has to corrupt and corrode all the other aspects. There are things that you can change. If in the past you had a poor relationship with a family member, but you want to fix it, you have to apologize and try to rebuild that relationship. That's an action that you can actually do. That's an action that you can actually change. You can change your behavior, and only then at least you're doing your part. And if you're changing your behavior and someone doesn't accept it, then you got to accept that. You can't change how people perceive you or view you based on your past experiences. You can only change your actions from this point on. So yeah, just have the courage, and it takes courage to change the things that you want to change. And it takes wisdom to know the difference. That's the big part, the finale of this quote, the finale of this episode, is you got to have the wisdom to know the difference. What can you change and what can you not change? And how are you going to let that impact your life? With RP, you got to know the difference. And that's the struggle. You want to start using a white cane, but you go out, you can't change how people are going to perceive you, but you can change how you perceive yourself and do what's best for you. You know what's best for yourself. You can't change them, but having the courage to go out with your white cane is going to benefit you. You have to have the serenity to accept what you can't change, which is your eye condition, your disability. But you have to have the courage to know to do what's best for you despite your disability or eye condition. You have to have the wisdom to know the difference. When you're put in a tricky scenario in regards to how you're being perceived or insecurities you have about your disability, about yourself, that's the wisdom of knowing the difference, is at least knowing you have the courage, you have courage and you're trying to change the things you can change. You have the wisdom to know the difference between those things you can change and the things you can't change. And I think there's a lot of power in figuring out which is which. And once you figure out which is which and you learn to accept both sides of that coin, you'll have a lot more clarity and you'll be a lot easier on yourself. You'll be a lot more forgiving of yourself. And a lot of people are afraid to change because they don't feel like they're worthy of change. They don't feel like they deserve to improve. They're selling themselves short. And that makes me sad. I want the best for everyone. And I just don't want people to be in a box. And I don't want people to put glass ceilings on themselves. And I want everyone to really reach their potential. Everyone has a potential. I have a potential that I'm not meeting, that I'm trying to reach. Everyone has a potential that they could reach. Everyone could improve. I don't care who you are. Everyone out there listening can improve in some ways. No one is perfect. No one has it all figured out. Everybody can improve. Even your heroes can improve. Again, no one's perfect. You got to enjoy the process. Again, the magic you're looking for is in the work you're avoiding. Once you start on the journey of change and growth and goals, and you will, that's the magic of it. That's the fun, that's the fun of it all. It's just trying. That's the beauty of trying, is when you put your head on their pillow at night, you tried that day and you can feel proud of yourself. Make yourself proud. I think it's, at the end of the day, it's just, if you make yourself proud, you can reflect on your day and be like, you know what? I worked towards my goals today. That's going to make you feel good when you go to bed. That's going to make you proud of yourself. You do something every day that makes you proud of yourself, and it's going to snowball. It's going to have a snowball effect. It's going to compile and grow. But you just got to do it. The magic is in the work you're avoiding. So hopefully that helps you get in the frame of mind for your goals for 2024. Get pumped, get excited, psych yourself up, form a plan, figure out your goals, set them, work towards it. Make yourself proud of yourself. Don't sell yourself short. You deserve to grow. It's okay to grow too. It's another thing. It's okay to grow. You're not selling out. You're not forgetting who you are or were. It's okay to grow. Don't let anyone make you feel like it's not okay to grow. If anyone's making you feel like it's not okay to grow, they're probably, you need to cut them off. And that's a whole nother topic, is the people around you and how they impact you and affect you. But yeah, that's my advice for, goal setting. I just want to get you in the mindset of, I want to get you pumped up. I want to get everyone excited about the year, because think of all the possibilities that can happen in this year. But at the end of the day, without the work, you don't do the work, they're not going to happen. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as this, the classic, you want to lose weight? It's just a matter of calories in versus calories out. Sometimes it is that simple. Life is complicated, but sometimes it can be that simple. But that's it for the quotes of this episode. I want to end this episode by saying, and just putting it out there, because I want to hold myself accountable for this. Outside of Foundation Fighting Blindness, I'm looking to get involved with a charity that doesn't go towards curing, vision or a disability. Again, I'm always going to support FFB, Foundation Fighting Blindness. I'm going to raise money for the Vision Walk this year. I'm still an advocate for FFB, but I also simultaneously want to get involved in another organization that helps blind and disabled people where they are currently. So if you have any suggestions, hit me up, DM me, or email me at theseethroughpodcast@gmail.com. So yeah, I just wanted to put that out there in case anyone has any recommendations for me. And another thing too, I want to go on more podcasts this year in 2024. I didn't really do that many podcasts, other people's podcasts this past year. And it's a lot of fun going on other people's podcasts. So if you know of any podcast that I can go on, send them my way. Let me know. Hit me up. Email me. I want to go on more podcasts. Spread the word. Help me out. But outside of that, I'm looking forward to 2024. I'm going to have another year of podcasting. I'm going to try to get the best possible guest I can. I'm going to try to have the best possible solo episodes. I'm going to try my best, and that's all I can do. And I hope you guys enjoy. I hope you guys stick around this year. Again, I have merch for sale if you want to show your support for the podcast in that way. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel yet, definitely do that. That's the best possible way to help this podcast. Hit that subscribe button. And if you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button. Leave a comment. Helps for the algorithm. And if you're streaming this episode on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure to rate the podcast on that platform. Hopefully 5 stars. You can also leave a review there. I love reading the reviews. Also, make sure to follow the podcast on social media. My handle is @SeeThroughPod, and I'm on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, you name it. And then I have a website, seethroughpod.com, where everything is. You can find links to all the episodes. You can find links to the merch. You can find links to press I've done. And it's just a one-stop shop for access to everything that I talk about. And again, the merch link is down in the show description if you want to show your support there. I have a coffee mug, hats, t-shirts. I have hoodies. I have a long sleeve shirt. There's a lot there, a lot of options there. Something for everyone. Free shipping in the United States. So the price you see is the price you will pay. Let's get hyped for this next year. 2024 is going to be an amazing year. I have some really dope things planned in my personal life outside of this podcast. So I have a lot to look forward to. But again, life, who knows what life's going to throw at you? Life doesn't care. Life's going to do its things. The best you can do is hope for the best and try your best. So I'm going to end on that. And I look forward to hanging out with everyone in the next year. Love everyone. Stay transparent.